habits. Now, this is an interesting thing. In the small catechism, what are the major parts of the catechism? Can you tell them to me? 10 Commandments, okay. Apostles' Creed, okay. Lord's Prayer. Sacraments. Office of the Keys. Sacraments of Baptism. Office of the Keys. What's the last one after Office of the Keys? That's that'll come next, and thank you for bringing that up. It's Sacrament of the Altar, and then Table of Duties. Martin Luther made the catechism as a handbook to know what does it mean to be a Christian. And in order for you to understand what your jobs are, your duties are, you have to understand the first 6 chief parts. And then you move into the Table of Duties. And how many people ever read the Table of Duties? That's the conclusion. That's the, oh, hey, Table of Duties, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a worker, I'm a pastor, I'm a student, whatever it is. But everybody goes, oh, we got to get, Sacrament of the Altar, which is important, don't get me wrong. But they stop there. I go, no, you're supposed to, that builds, it's a foundation. Each level builds, and then eventually you get to the top of, now how do I live as a Christian in my vocation, in my work? And how do I do this with time? That's what we're going to talk about today. So this slide is Jesus' vocational habits. So how do we learn from Jesus how he worked so that we may work better, that we might be better in our time? Not what we do, but how we spend time with it. Go to the next slide. All right, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. John 5. Jesus comes in and says he has work to do, and he shares work with others. There is work that he does as a son. Do you know that? That's part of his vocation. He's a son. He's a son of Mary. You can see that in John when he says to the apostle John, take care of my mom. I have a vocation. I have a work. He is the Son of God. He has a work to do that, to bring the gospel to light, to preach, to teach, to build up people, to forgive sins. He's got that. He's got a vocation as a rabbi. He has to spend time teaching disciples who are kind of clueless, like us. He's like, hey, I've got to spend some 24/7 with you. I've got to take some personal time and work and go be with my dad in prayer and know the scriptures. So we see his work and the work that we share in this. And so we go to the next slide. We might be going back and forth with this, but this is Christians' vocations. What I want you to do is I want you to answer these questions by yourself and then as a table. But the questions are, what are your current vocations? What are the things you do? What are your duties? What are your obligations? Who are you in charge of? Who are you underneath? What vocations have you held in the past? Maybe your vocation has changed. I had a vocation in my past. I was a son of my mother and father. I no longer have that vocation. Why? Because they're with the Lord. Now, I still am a brother, but some vocations have changed. Some, they stay with you until one of you dies, like when you get married, until death do you part. You now have a vocation. You're like, oh, okay, I'll be with my wife. I'll be with my husband until one of us dies, or until they kill me. That sometimes happens too. But you have these vocations. What are some in the past? Now, this could be a vocation of work too. So I used to be in retail, now I'm something else. That's a vocation of work, but I want you to think about this. The next is, what vocations do you see yourself doing in the future? So not just what are you doing now, but sometimes the Lord calls you to a different vocation. Like, for instance, you could be married, and then the Lord says, I'm going to call you to be a mom or dad. You're like, oh, I don't want to be a mom or dad. So too late. You're going to be mom or dad. Now you're going to be mom or dad until you die or they die. You have a new vocation. You've added it to your list. I trust you, which is pretty amazing. So this list should be quite lengthy. There's godly ones. There's earthly ones. But I want you to put some thought into what is your work. If you go back to the original slide, we'll keep the scripture up so that you realize we're talking about the works that God has given you, that Jesus has given you, that we are a part of. Sometimes you don't have a vocation. That's okay. Sometimes you do. So write those down and then start talking about it at your table. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes or so. Go. There you go. figures one. I think it's okay. All right. Testing, testing, testing. You might have to turn it up just a little bit. Yeah, get back there. I'll let you go. Thank you. Yeah, I just got a correction. Thank you very much for people who are digging into the word. This is John 9, not John 5. John 9, 4 through 5. John 9. Continue your conversation. Go. All right, so looking at this, vocation. You have some vocations. Man, this... Maybe it's because I'm like under a speaker or something. I wonder if... All right, we're going to try maybe me coming out. Maybe it's me under a speaker that's having issue. Okay, so you have vocations. Some are normal and biblical that you go, oh, I understand. Some are unique to you. I want to ask the odd question. What are some weird vocations that you have? What are some ones that are not typical that you go, oh, I'm a farmer, I'm a nurse, I'm a military person. That's kind of typical. Are there vocations that God has given you, your duties, that are maybe not typical? Like you go, that's an odd thing or it's a temporary thing. Yes, please, Neil.
Among other things that I do right now, One is I'm show chairman for the people with whom I sing, and I don't know if I really screwed it up and they want me to get it right, or I did okay because they want me to be it for life. Because no one else,
they're punishing you. That's what they're doing.
Job.
But we do have other vocations too, and we need to kind of balance them. We need to say, okay, how do we find balance with this, which is going to lead us to the next question on here, and I'll read it for us. It says, how many hours a day do you work at your job? How many hours a day do you work for your family? How do you maintain a good balance with your duty, your vocation to your work, and your vocation to your family? That's the question to talk about. But I want you to write down your hours of family and work to kind of see how are you doing with that, with your balance. Maybe you're out of balance. Maybe you're out of whack. So start with that and then move to your table discussion. Go.
But then what they'll do is you'll see all these other lines of cars. So it has this algorithm where it's sending 10 cars this way and 10 cars down this way and 10 down that. And you wonder because you're like on a street or something, why is this traffic? That's exactly. I looked at it and go,
All right. How do we maintain a balance in our vocations? Because one of the problems that we have in our society and our sinfulness with our family, with our work, with our hobbies, is maintaining the balance that is godly and not having one thing eat up more than another. And my story I always use for this, you might even hear it in a sermon sometime when this comes up, but I was at a middle school youth event in North Dakota. And they had the band there, they had youth there, the pastors was great. We had probably 200 middle school youth from the whole state, the whole district. And they were talking about like our jobs and our vocations. And the parents were there picking up their kids, and they had parents participating. And he was talking, the presenter was talking, he said, okay, well, how often or how much do you work at your job per week? And he said, how many people work 40 hours a week? You know, people raise their hand. How many people work 50 hours? Oh, they raised their hand. That's 60. It got smaller and smaller and smaller until it got to the last person. And they said, how many hours a week do you work? He said, 80. He's a doctor. And the presenter said this, I'm so very sorry. That is something not to be proud of. Because you're out of balance. You're out of dad. You're neglecting your vocation as a person, and he'll say it. Well, I can't go to church, I gotta work. I can't go be with my kids, they gotta work. Then something's wrong, it's out of balance. So, how do we maintain the balance? What are some tips that we would give each other? How do we maintain the balance of our work and our church and our family life and try to maintain it? Because it's hard. It's a difficult job to do. All right, looking for your wisdom. How do you maintain the balance of your vocation? Yes, hopefully the mic works.
No is a sentence. No is a sentence. So for me, when someone asks me if I can do something or if I'm available for something, I look at my calendar first. I don't just say, yeah, sure. I look at my calendar first before I give a response. Or I say, let me let you know. I don't immediately commit to something because then it's hard to like back off and say no, especially if it's someone you care about your relationship with. So.
I call it the gospel of no. Good news. God did that. He gave to Adam and Eve good news in the garden before they sinned. You know that? He said, don't eat that tree. That's no. No. We're like, but I want to do whatever. No, this is good news. Because if you do, you're going to die. So no can be a gospel, but we have this whole thing of like, we have to do whatever they ask of us, or they jump on it right away. The new approach, which really bugs me, my kids or their generation below, is they will give their word on something, but then back out. They will say, oh, sure, I'll be at church at 8, and but no, my friends came online and I can't, sorry. Like, no, you just gave your word that you were going to be here. And now you're backing out. And their generation is this, I'm going to wait to see if something good comes along. That's what they're doing. So they're like, thanks for inviting me to the football game, but I'd rather go to this party. And it just came up. And thanks for wasting that ticket for me. You're like, what? What is going on with that? And so to say no, to be honest with your word, or to have them wait, that's a good idea. Other wisdom. Yes?
So my old vocation allowed me to only work 10 days a month because there were 24-hour shifts.
Oh, sure.
So that was good for the kids growing up because I was always home.
Oh, yeah. To balance it, and usually bosses, if they're good bosses, will balance this. Interestingly enough, with work and rest, the cycle of work and rest happens to be a cycle in agriculture in Israel. That's how it got started. That's what God talks about in the Pentateuch. And about 40 hours a week, 40 to 45, is a good balance of work. You can stretch it. You can, but only for shorter periods. And if you're doing less, you might need to buck up a little bit and do a little bit more. But that's a pretty good, and that's kind of where we get some of our national averages and other things that we have. Europe actually they've learned that if you're expecting more of a person, you actually get less productivity. And so they have some really great statistics of, we want to get the butter zone of about 40 to 45. If you go to 60 or 80, your productivity declines. And that's statistics. That's not God or anything. That's just like, we want to get the most out of you. And so they found that out. In America, we have capitalism where we think, well, if we work 40 hours, that's good. We work 60 hours, that's better, because we make more money. And you don't. You really burn yourself out for things. Others, wisdom. Yes, please.
You can set an appropriate time limit for things. So, like, if you only have an hour to do something, then you do it in that hour. You set a timer, and you move on to whatever's next.
Yeah, time limit. Setting your watch, your calendar, your things. I know many of you do that for my sermon. I'm like, hey, you're over. The time appropriate. Let's go. Just set that. You do that with your kids. You do that with school. You do that with work. It's not bad. Now, hopefully you're not watching the clock because you're wasting time. But if it's set there appropriately, you go, oh, hey, it's time to move on to the next one. Next.
I think a lot of it was easier when the kids were younger because we would do church activities or we do scouting activities and we did all of them as family.
Yes. How can we maybe do more things as family and less the compartmentalization? Because that's what our society has done. Instead of saying, hey, let's try to do more togetherness, we go, oh no, I'm going to drop my kids off and do something. I'm going to go to my gym myself. And so we're like, you can kill two birds sometimes. You can have family time in the car while you're going to a soccer meet together. Yeah, you can do that. those things all are part of the balance we have. Others, wisdom of balance. I get to speak up. Yeah.
So, being intentional with my time with my family members. So, one of the things I thought about this year is every month I want to do something one-on-one with each member of my family. So get that quality.
That is really good. I have a few mantras. One is, that's a purposeful statement. I want to have good purpose in the time that I'm doing. Whether it's with my kids, with my wife, with my husband, with my job, good purpose, I'm engaged. The other mantra that I have too is kind of the reverse, is that quantity time makes quality time. And I give you this. Your kids, when they're stuck in the car with you together for 6 or 8 hours on a trip, make your vacation at Disneyland better. Because you've spent more time together so you can enjoy the highlight there. But what we do is we go, oh, we're going to have a highlight. I got 5 minutes, kid. I got 6 minutes, wife. That's our highlight. I'm like, no, you kind of compartmentalize. It's good, but you might have to take some lead time into it or spread it out over the month or over the year for it. Other wisdom. Everybody's got a good balance, right? You feel great. After work, you go, thank you, God, for a great job. I was productive today, right? You get done with your kids after school, you go, oh, thank you, God, this is awesome. I get to spend time with my kids now instead of all the other stuff I have to do. Right? Over here.
I had a job where I ended up driving me home in 10 minutes. Now, I had a cousin that worked for up in Chicago for Quaker Oven. And he lived out in the suburbs, and he had to go into the city because that's where his home was.
Oh, yeah.
And it took him 3 hours a day. An hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half at night. Now, he may only work 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, but he had another 3 hours on the road. Now, he did productive things for himself, I mean, you know, but you're away from the family for the 3 hours.
Yeah, you have to add in the travel time. You have to add in the up and the down. My wife has told me over and over, we just got back from a speaking thing that she did, but also a little bit of vacation, and I know it. It's in our rhythm of things. But when we go on vacation, it takes me 3 days to come down off of work. That means I'm stopping thinking about work there because my brain is always going. How can I do this better? How can I help a person? How to do this? And then it takes me 3 days to ramp back up to work. So if I have a week vacation, how many days do I actually get rest? 1. Okay? I know that. That's why we do longer vacations. Our family knows that. But a lot of people are like, oh, you can just turn it off. I'm like, well, that's like saying, oh, your child has a disease, and you just turn that off in your brain. And they're like, no, you can't turn that off. You might get some rest eventually for things. But travel time, how do you use the most of your travel time? Oh, man, having your Bible read to you while you travel and doing the confessions or Luther's small catechism while you travel is an amazing gift. All you need to do is tell your kids, get off your phone. We're listening. All of us together. And you have to get off your phone, husband and wife, as you travel. You go, oh, okay, we're going to listen to this. It's an amazing thing to do something while you travel. Or talk about things like, hey, we're going to get rid of the noise. We're going to talk to each other while we travel. Like, let's talk about something important or whatever. You can double up and use your travel time as something good. Other things of balance before we move to the next one. All right, over here. Oh, 2, actually. Well, you might have to be real loud. We're trying the mics out.
I work for a Weimaraner rescue. And so that's a hard one because you never know when something's going to happen. You never know. We haven't had a dog in like 6 weeks, but that doesn't mean we're not going to get one. And that takes so many hours of the day. So it's stuff that pops up like that.
Yeah, and how do you prepare for it? Now, granted, emergencies, you prepare for them, but you don't live by the emergency. That's a rule of thumb I tell people, especially families, to do boundaries. If you think a situation is an emergency situation, it should be less than 5% of your life. If it's not, it's become a habit. And maybe it's not an emergency anymore. You need to rethink it. But a lot of times we live in the emergency. We love the adrenaline for things. But how do we plan for it put it on the shelf, and go, okay, it'll happen, but I know it'll happen. I'm going to live my life and do this, and then when it happens, I grab it from the shelf and do it in kind of a brain speak for things. Yes.
I think,
Be loud.
okay, I'll be loud.
Yep.
Having a spouse who is able to step in and willing to step in.
Oh, yes. Spouses and families, too, holding each other accountable. I encourage my children to come to me and say, Dad, I haven't seen you in a while.
Is it showing? Is it showing up that it's?
It sounds better. Dad, well. Okay. I encourage my wife to tell me this. Hey,
So that actually works for the web.
focus on me.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I'll focus on you. Focus on the kids for this. Being with each other to help each other out. Because really, I always tell people this. I understand the problems of single parenting. I get it. The sinful ones, all the issues that are around it. I get that. But God made mom and dad for parenting for a reason. Because it's a tag team sport. It is. Because one of you is going to fail them. And the more kids you have, the more tag team it is. Because they're wanting all of your attention. You go, I am out of it today. I got to tag wife. Wife, get in and help me. Wife comes in and tags me and says, I need your help with it. That's important. And single parenting is a hard job. I always tell them, find some good mentors to help you because it's a tag team sport. Sometimes it's even a church sport. You need a lot of people for it. Okay, to the next question is, what activities do you like best at your jobs? What activities do you like doing with your family? And then the next one is, how do you set boundaries and balance your time spent with God, your family, and work? What boundaries do you set to say, I want good time for God, family, and work? So that we might learn off each other. So do it yourself, learn at your table, like you do about 5-6 minutes, and we'll learn as a group. Go. And I don't think, I'm trying to project and be loud, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I should be quieter?
This week it's been on all 3 channels, the same issue.
Oh, okay.
It makes me think it's
It's something back there. Yeah, that's what you said, yeah. But the one that's here,
which means it's probably in that spot back there.
okay, well, maybe I break things, that's my gift. My dad always told me that with cars. He had the gift of healing, I had the gift of destruction.
My dad had a painting company,
Oh, yeah.
and I'd always, hey, Dad, I got a lot done. I was working really hard. He'd say, Nate, washing machines work hard.
Well, and
You just sit there and you're like,
thanks, Dad.
I found, and this is, I've seen it more and more, but it's the work smarter, not harder kind of thing. And then the problem that we have is that we might work smarter, but then we fill the time that we gain with more problems and stuff. So it's the, okay, you got 40 hours a week, working whatever. I'm going to work smarter and shave off 5 hours of that. Well, now I'll work 5 hours. Like, you saved yourself to do more work. Why, that doesn't, you should save yourself to set a boundary or something. And they're like, no, I do 45 to make more. Yeah, it does. And it's there's a sinful nature thing, but I think also in American society or capitalism really breeds this. Because it's all about, I want to make as much money as I can, the shortest amount of time. And I'm like, maybe we need to have a long-term approach with what we're doing.
You're wasting time with more.
Yep. Well, and back in the day,
And the point is, it's not necessarily.
yes.
But we have to constantly use very silent.
They get nuts.
So
Yep.
you have to turn on music, you have to turn
Yep.
on TV, you don't even watch it.
We've been inundated with stuff. And the hard thing too is that it used to be, it still is. When you go out in nature and you decompress, it's good for you. But our society says more is more. instead of less. Oh, that's fine. That can be a good thing. People don't like that, especially for school.
Talk about like 5S's from your house and minimize and all that.
The thing that gets me, Sarah and I just had this, so we had our update on our iOS for our phones. Every time they do it, they mess it up. They don't make it better. They make it so that you're frustrated with it, that you have to go back to something else. You have like, it's rare. It's like maybe 5% of whatever they do. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That was good. The 95% is like, why are you doing this? You're making, and they do it because they need to keep producing.
When I was a kid, I embraced it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved it.
That new thing.
Want anything else?
I know. Just want to talk to them on the phone. we turned into our parents.
Because it's like at work, you're like, you come up and you're like, hey, I sent you an email. You're like,
Yes. I found that's going to come up with the boundaries. Is I told you this very early. I had to tell my supervising pastor. He had it was FOMO, and it was before FOMO was ever a thing. But he's like, you got to answer my emails and phone calls. I said, no, I don't. I said, I'll answer emails at the beginning of the day, but I am not beholden to you in your timetable. For instance, if I'm driving, I will not answer your email. If I'm with my family, I will not answer your email. And he had to look at me like, but you need to do it right now. I'm like, no, I don't. If it was that important, you would call me. Yeah.
but I mean, when you think about phone
Right.
on cell phones, when every minute counts.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It
yeah.
was like, hey, mom and dad, I got there, okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Right.
And now it's like you call them, it's just like, what do you do?
Yeah, I know. You had
What are you making for dinner?
there's a show on it, and it's really something our kids are starting to deal with. It's called Resident Alien. It's comedy. It's funny. But it's about the small town in Colorado that has an alien invader, and he's trying to figure out how to live as a person. Alan Tudyk. It's great. But the mayor and his wife dated electronically in the same town. They talked to each other on the phone. They texted everything. They didn't know how to communicate. All they had was this. And so they had a date night one time where all they did was they sat, and she had a phone, and he had a phone, and they talked to each other on the phone in the same room. Yeah, I know, and it's
In their big houses and everything?
the hard thing is like, okay, I see it, but we've lost good communication. We've lost because on a phone you can't have eye contact. You can't read their body. So it's
Well, and just with people, just you lose that interaction. When people let you watch their videos, like I worked with a bunch of guys, they're like, did you watch football? I was like, and I said, no, I have chickens. You just walk away. They're like, what do you mean?
I know, and we get stereotyped.
And then they go, what does that mean? You go, that's the best kept secret. I'm like, you don't know.
Would you like to know?
And it's just like,
Yeah. And it's saying no, certain things, saying no to your kids. One of the things we hear more and more is you say no to your kids, you say no smartphones until you're a junior in high school. That you can have a flip phone when you're a freshman, no smartphones, because it is for the brain development. And there's statistics on this, and they're like, well, I know it's good, but I couldn't do that because my kid is so dependent. I'm like, no, they're not. I lived my whole entire life without that. You can find somebody to talk to. So, yeah, it's the boundary. And it's ever moving because technology is ever moving. All right, we're going to try the lapel mic now for me. So what are some boundaries? That's really the thing. So what do you like the best? That's the first thing. I always tell people, when you lead with your vocations, lead with what you like best with them. Because oftentimes we complain first, okay? So for instance, here you go, your vocation as a church member, okay? You go home after church, do you lead with, oh man, that service was so long. That pastor was boring. Do you lead with that? Or do you go, man, I saw my friend today, that was great. And you program your children to know whether it's good or bad based on your response with that. You know, and so I go, let's lead with good things. What's a good thing about being a dad? What's a good thing about being a mom? What's a good thing about being a child? Those are good things to lead with for other people because our world is messed up with vocations. And then the next question, as you talked about, we should learn is, what are some boundaries you have used or seen put in place that have helped you with your balance of God time, family time, work time, you time, all the different things. So that's what we're going to open up. Let's learn. Back there for Carl. We're going to try a different approach here. So
one of the things I do is I don't schedule meetings with students until 11 a.m.
Okay.
Because everything's scheduled Eastern time.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
need time to wake up, shower, get dressed, do my morning prayer, do my Bible study, have coffee, etc. before I talk to students.
Yeah. Knowing your own biorhythm, too, is very important. And in fact, my biorhythm changed when I became a vocational dad. And I tell people who first start having their children, do not make the mistake that I did. My wife and I made a deal. And I said, I will go get the child when they're crying in the middle of the night, and you put the child to bed when that happens. That seems equitable. It's not equitable. Because who always hears the kids? Not mom, me. Because I'm the one who went to go get them. Mom's asleep. So now when they were throwing up, when they're middle school or high school, I'm the one waking up. I said, Dad, it's not good. We needed to trade off or do something with that. But to know the biorhythm is like, okay, I'm a dad now. I can't stay up late anymore. I'm changing my rhythm for things. What's a good timing for this? What's a good time for devotions? When work starts. That's good. Others? Yes?
So my dad was a great example as a farmer. In probably 60 or 70 years of farming, I only saw him work on Sunday one time.
Oh, yes.
So we don't, I try to not work on Sunday, not Booz Allen kind of work. So
yeah. So your behavior and habits will change your children and your society. I always tell people the things that you don't do sometimes are louder than the things that you do. For instance, if you're not working and going to the sports games and all the stuff on Sunday morning, people know it. And they go, you're different. And you go, yeah, I am different. And then they'll ask why. Why are you different? Because I'm going to church with my kids. That's what I do. I'm not doing the hockey and all the other stuff. But if you join in with the world, you're one of them. And oftentimes you don't give a good message. Our parents, we imprint, or our people around. Going in with Todd, my father, he worked out in the field, did stuff, woke up early. 9 o'clock Sunday morning, every Sunday, he'd come in with the tractor from the field. Get out, go take a shower, go to church. Every Sunday morning. Now, he didn't have to, but he said, no, this is important. I'm going to set aside the time for it. Even though if I had to work in the morning or do something like that, I'm going to set aside. That made an imprint on me because I remember I could watch that tractor go in every Sunday morning and time it and go, Dad, we got about 10 minutes. We got to get going. So, yes.
My wife and I have an agreement. It's called, are you going to do this on Sunday, especially outside?
Oh.
In other words, we're not going to mow the grass. We're not going to plant a tree. We're not going to do any of that unless it's absolutely has to get done. Then that's when we say a donkey fell in a hole. We got to get the donkey.
Oh, yeah.
But we try to not show any of that to our neighbors.
Huh? Yeah. That's actually good. I like the boundary. That's from the Bible. And what happens is this. People will say, well, I want to be a good neighbor, which is good. And they said, well, somebody's lying on the road, and I want to be a good neighbor, and I have to do that. You're supposed to do that. That's vocation. And then my question for you is this. How many times has that happened in your life? That's an emergency, and you're prepared for it. But if you're not doing the emergency, you're doing the habit, which means you're going to church. But people go like, no, I got to be prepared for the emergency. So I'm going to go to football, and I'm going to go to the Broncos game, and I'm going to go to this. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, that's the emergency. That's the donkey fell in the hole. Of course we want to help that out. But then we go back to the habit of maybe we should have a rest day on Sunday and not have our donkey always in the hole or try to make it that way. So yeah, that's great. Others? Yes, over here.
Well, you notice I'm not sitting at the same table as Lori. And
Yeah, vocation, huh? Yeah, nice.
that was an accident, but so I will confess, and I don't think I'm alone, that I was not very good at that when I was working.
Oh.
I worked for the Army. I wasn't active duty, but I was part of a team, and we went.
Oh.
And I enjoyed it. right? And so guess who carried it?
Yes.
Lori carried it. And so there was always, all the military people will know, anything goes wrong when you're TDY, when you're out of town, right?
Yeah.
And so she had a big mop and bucket to clean up a lot of messes while I was gone. So first of all, I'm thankful to God for that. I will say I rebel a little bit about the term balance, because I think that no matter where you are, there's not God time and work
it's
time.
all time.
You're Christ in all situations.
Yeah.
No matter what your vocation is, and that's the real
Yes.
story here, is that you take Christ with you and you're his person no matter what you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good point to start with things. Really, as we talked about the catechism and as our lives in Christ, oftentimes we set our schedules in reverse to the great rules that Christ has given us. So we start with the I first. What do I want to do? Then I'll talk about the we of my neighbor, and then I'll get to what God wants. And I'm like, no, you got it backwards. Start with God. How am I in Christ in all my vocations? What are the we that I'm supposed to do in helping my neighbor and doing things? And then I maybe will get to the I for this. And that's it's a sinful self thing, but it's the prioritization. Because I know lots of people that will go, pastors. I have to point a finger at pastors. They'll say, oh, I'm serving God, so I have to be present 90 hours a week. And I have to be doing this. I said, you're not serving God. You're serving you, and you're thinking about it. Because you're not serving your family, and you're not serving your neighbor. You need to think about them too. Now, there's the opposite. If pastors are lazy, I get that. They're like, well, I'm going to go serve God by going to the Broncos game. Like, no, sorry. You could do that possibly, but there is a prioritization. And how do you do it well? And that's hard because a lot of people have different expectations. They might have a world expectation. This is what the world says. Or they might be the martyr expectation. And I've seen it with families too, where they go, oh, I got to be the good wife. And so I got to do everything my husband tells me to. And I'm like, really? First off, you should talk to my wife because that never works. And then the second is, maybe we should have your priorities straight again. But what is your husband asking you good and godly things and you're doing it together? Or is your husband abusing you? Or vice versa, wife abusing husband. That's a hard thing. And I use the word balance as okay, we got to live this out. How do we live it out well continually? Next, go ahead.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Vern here.
Great.
Because he's not in the room.
Well, Jeff started, right? So yeah.
No, when we first got married, he was a drill sergeant. And drill sergeants work really long days. And when they don't have kids, a lot of them get guilted into working other people's long days too. So after about the third round of students going through, he came home and I said, oh, we're going to go out to dinner as a group, And I'm like, okay, I'll get changed. Oh, no, not the wives. Just the soldiers. I'm like, oh. And I started crying. I was a new wife. And one of my love languages I found out a few years later was spending time together.
Sure.
So, but by the time we got to our third post, which was here at Fort Carson, I found out about how you could do respite care for those that have special needs students or special needs children. You take a mom away from the family support, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, all the nieces and nephews that can babysit, and you've got a special needs kid. They need that extra family help that's not there so that they can get a break, especially if the soldier's deployed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I've learned is how to help out other families so that they can get their time too.
It's important to look around for others. I remember, this is a story from my wife. I'm borrowing from her. I was there, but I was clueless because I was doing my stuff. But we were in Walmart, and we had our kids, and, all of them are about the same age. They were young, and I'm trying to think. I think Elijah was the one in diapers. And we were getting our stuff, and we were, taking care of what we needed to take care of, and Elijah's diaper just blew out. Right there in the line. And of course, it's embarrassing. You're trying to do stuff. So I said, okay, I'll take care of the paying for it and doing all the stuff. I'll do this. Sarah, you go in there. Well, somebody noticed her and came into her and said, I want to give you a gift certificate because I know you're doing a hard job. And I want you to know, I said, we could be aware of other people, like you were saying. We could be aware of others who are in similar situations or things and go, I can be a good neighbor for them, or I can show kindness to them, or I can be intentional with this. And it wasn't anything expected. She was just doing her duty and stuff like that, but they came in and just said, you're having a hard time. I see it. I want to make your life a little easier. And you're like, we could do that for others. And it's surprising. I mean, they call it paying it forward sometimes, but it's surprising how it affects people. Just little acts of kindness or love to them and say, hey, I'm just loving you. I'm just trying to take care of you. Others.
Some of you know my story, but I'm going to tell it. When I was 4, my dad died, left my mom with 7 kids. The oldest was 14, the youngest was 6 months. My dad was the pastor of our church. Our church came together and did what all you guys are talking about. And let me tell you, I've told this story. My kids know the story, and my kids take care of people.
Yeah. It's situations like that where I'll use the word suffering, where we as Christians are present in people's suffering, that they see Christ. It's not when you win the Super Bowl. That's not when they see Christ, because then they'll see you. But when you're suffering and the family sees it, they go, oh, that's what it means to be the family of God. Yeah, and God told us that. Jesus told us that too. That's a hard thing. We always think by our successes we tell people about Christ, and oftentimes it's by our weaknesses. Paul mentions that as well, where we love one another. The church comes together and does this. All right, we're going to go to the next 2 questions. And this is hurdles that you have had. So we've had some boundaries, like what are some good boundary things? What are some hurdles that you've run into? Because now you're like, okay, I tried to set this boundary, but Dad will not stop watching football on Sunday afternoon. I've got a hurdle. So what do we do with the hurdles? And the last one is, how does spending time at work or with your family help you better confess Christ? We talked a little bit about that. Todd did, I did. But others as well. How do you confess Christ when you spend time at work and with your family? Give some examples of that, maybe even personal testimonies, if you would. We're going to go with those 2 questions individually and then as a table, and then we'll bring it out as a group. Go. Ooh, we're almost done. We're almost done with the Bible study. We've got one more section. What are we going to do? We'll do 10 Commandments after this one. And then after the 10 Commandments, we'll do Stewardship of Talent. And then after that one, we'll do Lord's Prayer, and then Stewardship of Money. And hopefully, that time will be in the fall, and then we'll start our Bible study. We'll see. Interestingly enough, when you look at biblical evidence of things of stewardship, there is way more information on stewardship of time than there are of talents and treasure. But everybody leads with those 2. So when you look at biblical evidence, there is biblical evidence of the others, but the time one is like it's 5 to 1 kind of thing. I said, I think there's something there. I think there's some importance there we should pay attention to.
It's like you grow up in a kind of assume that everybody.
Yes. Yep.
And here I am at work, and it's just like people this last week were just talking about
Oh, yeah.
and everybody's like, you may have been around the ring. You're like, hey, well, anyway. And you're like, hey,
What's that name?
what's that? Never heard that. And people are talking about resurrection and all the other stuff.
Oh.
We're just like, it's so. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, is that I've never thought about this.
yes. Yes.
And you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
I know exactly who you are.
We know what to expect.
But then you go to a knockdown church and you
Everyone
walk
is
in-
different.
You walk in each church and you're just like, hey, who are you? Like you treat every church
Independently.
You treat every Christian like a Mormon. You're like, wait, I'm Lutheran.
Yeah.
I mean, we're crossing I's and dotting T's. It's not like, oh, you're in good company. You're like, no.
No.
Spell it.
We
Spell it.
I found there's a website. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I believe he's Presbyterian, but he works for a Baptist school. But his website is Ready to Harvest. And his whole premise is, I want to do two things. I want to be transparent of what the church says and believes, and I want to try to be as unbiased as possible. I'm just going to give you the facts in a factual kind of thing, which he does a good job. But his stick is, he said all the non-denoms are not transparent. They will say we're a non-denom Christian church, and you have to ask, what does that mean? Because you go to one and you're like, well, you actually believe that Jesus Christ died for us, and you don't. And you all say, well, we're a non-denom church. It's like, no. And he narrowed it down. He said, and he's a statistics, so he looks at all this stuff. He said, primarily they're probably one of three background religions, but they don't want to tell people that because they want to be open to whatever. And he's like, no, most non-denoms are this,
Well,
this,
it's
and this.
interesting how you have a Baptist church and then it goes to non.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, all the people changed, huh?
Yeah. And, well,
And it's just, and I was talking about it. It's just like, I was talking about the Creed.
oh,
Like the band in the 90s?
oh yeah.
Like,
But you're like, kind of,
No.
yeah.
and like, I was like, like, can I sing? I said, and he's like, I never heard that. You're just like,
We have found, I want to write an article with my friends, but I call it the Church of VBS. And what has happened, VBS is not bad, but what has happened is we've lowered maturity of discipleship down to the level of VBS. And sometimes you not even the word, even VBS, because at VBS you'll go, hey, we actually have a Bible lesson, and some churches like, it's a TED Talk. And I'm like, no, we're called to make disciples, which are disciplined, matured believers, not the reverse. And that's what Christianity's, they're like, well, I got to get them in the door because I want them to hear about Jesus. Great. Where are you going next? Oh, no, we're going to stay put because that would be, we would ruffle feathers or do something like, hey, maturity always ruffles feathers. You got a professional football player versus some guy who plays on Saturday. Guess who's going to be more disciplined? Yeah. All right, hurdles and confession. Now, why I have this in here is that I look at the law of this. Oftentimes we go, hey, look at me and how great I'm doing. I'm the best dad, I'm the best teacher, I'm the best pastor, and you should be like me. No, let's look at what your hurdles are. What are the problems you're having? Because once you look at the problem and recognize it, you can say, oh, let's try to find a solution. Maybe my problem is I don't want to go to church on Sunday morning. Okay, let's talk about your motivation then. Let's try to fix this. Or maybe your problem is this, and you're like, that's what the hurdles are about. What are the hurdles that we need to overcome? And we can learn from each other because many times we have similar hurdles. I remember when our kids were first coming up in the South Denver area. Super affluent. And we had a rule in our family. What one child does, all children do. We will not specialize a child. So we always said you can do one after-school sport for the school year, and you can do one musical, artsy kind of thing that you want, okay? Every child can do that because we can afford that. And we had everybody else going, oh, you need to join this baseball club. And I said, first question, how much does that cost? Oh, it's only $3,000 plus all the trips and all the things that come on that. I said, nope, sorry, because then that would be $3,000 for every child. And then they say, but you're going to miss out. And then I said, I guess that's a hurdle. I'm going to overcome it by saying the gospel of no. No. Now that alienated some people in our church who were big on club sports because that was their religion. And they're like, well, pastor and his kids aren't going to do club sports. We don't want to talk to them anymore. Like, well, okay, that's the hurdle. But I would rather overcome that hurdle by being with my kids, maybe saving some money, and maybe doing things right on Sunday mornings instead of not. But that was a hurdle to overcome. And we felt it. There was a peer pressure among the society because the moms would get together and their first question is, well, what dance club is your daughter in? What club sport is your son in? What do you do after school with all of? What do you do? We're like, nothing. They play piano and they come home. Oh, you're one of those people. Yeah, you mean Christian? Yeah, I am. That's good. And they didn't like that. That was a hurdle. We had to overcome it. So hurdles, and then how do we confess? Go. What are some hurdles? What are some ways this uses in confession? Nobody wants to admit their hurdles. Yes.
So I'm a teacher, and one of the societal and sometimes job expectations at a school, thankfully not at mine, but sometimes a lot of people expect, oh, you're a teacher, so you took your grading home, or you took your planning home, or you took your work home with you. And last year, when it was my first year at that job, I was like overcompensating. So I was like always bringing stuff home, always taking that work with me. And this year, I just felt like I didn't need to do that anymore.
Yep.
So I put a line in the sand and said, I am intentionally not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm intentionally making sure that if I do bring something home, it's done after the kids go to bed. If I do bring something home, it's not, like, if I don't get it done, I'm not going to freak out about it. If I do get it done, great. But intentionally making that boundary, that line in the sand, and saying, I am not crossing this.
Yeah.
I'm not going above and beyond.
You know, you bring up a good point, too, that there are a lot of societal pressures that are put on families that they don't realize it. Like a teacher, and I understand that. This teacher of like, oh, you got to do more, you do more, bring some stuff. Why aren't you being creative? Why do you do this? Like, well, I'm being a good teacher in my vocation. My kids are learning and I'm doing my job. I don't need that. You're putting something on me that's not good. So I'm going to put a boundary up. That's a hurdle. I'm going to have to overcome it. I had to do early on in my ministry, I call it a portal boundary. And the portal boundary is this. When I walk out the church doors, unless it's a dire emergency, somebody's dying or in the hospital, it's in the office. And now I go be home with my family as father. Now, sometimes I try to turn my brain off. My kids try to remind me of that. Turn your brain off for this. But I call it a portal. I've walked out the portal. So if I need to get extra work done, I stay in the portal. I don't want to try to mix it and match because you burn time from everyone. But to kind of set, that's a hurdle that we have to overcome, maybe in your own vocations. Others, hurdles and confession. Go.
So I have a friend, and for this friend, occasionally it's easier to disappoint his spouse or his children than to disappoint his boss.
Yes. Yeah. And to be able to maybe confess what you're doing with stuff, because there's this pressure of bosses and others. And if you have a good boss, first off, if you are a boss and you are acting as a Christian, I applaud you. Because we need more bosses like that. We need more people who look underneath them and say, I'm going to take care of the people underneath me and make sure they're doing well. We have a lot of bosses who aren't, or a lot of bosses who fake it for things. But the boss always is looking, the bad one is always looking for money, always looking for you to produce money and make more money for them. A good boss is looking out for the people underneath them. And interestingly enough, if you're a good boss, you do make more money. They have statistics on that. That's an amazing thing. But yeah, if your boss comes in, this would be awesome. I've seen this sometimes. The boss comes in and says, you're working too hard here. Go home. Go be with your wife. Go be with your kids. You're like, what? Yep, go home. Do it. You're like, thank you, boss, for giving me the opportunity. Instead of saying, you got to be here 24/7. Yes.
When I was a young person in the military, one of the things I was told, I was getting really frustrated. I was probably around 28, 30. I said, I got this to do, and I got that to do, and got all these other things to do. I can't do all of those. Oh, yes, this is the guidance I got. You got to do it all. I lived that for about 10 years, and then decided that was stupid. Yeah, I'm not that smart. It took me 10 years to figure that out, but yeah, and it's one of those things that people tell you, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do all these other things, and you want to please people. But I didn't understand the gospel of no.
To me, yeah, it's a lie in our society, especially among American society, capitalism and things like that. We have to be very conscious of it. And the way I do it is to say, am I doing what God told me to do? Am I doing it the way He should? Am I loving my neighbor, especially the neighbors of my family and the people that I'm supposed to do my vocation? I can defend it then. So when somebody says, you got to do it all, I go, no, I don't need to go to the Broncos game. No, but you have to. No, that's not a have to. That's a get to. I'm not doing that. A have to is this. And that's hard because we have put everything in the realm of have to. And riddance. There's best practice, and I want to move better at best practice. Next.
Yeah, I'm like you and Todd. I grew up on a farm. My dad not only farmed, but he was a carpenter. They called him carpenters back then. So he was always working. He come home and he had stuff to do. So, that was a hurdle for me, because all I ever saw. Now he died when he was 38, but still, he worked, and that's all we knew. That's what, as males, that's what we were supposed to do, is work. So you get married, and my older brother and my younger brother, it wasn't quite so bad, but my older brother and I, he called me here a year ago and said, "How come we're still working?" And he's 75 and I'm 73. And I said, "Because that's all we knew. That's what we saw." So to us, work is life, I guess, our life. And that's a hurdle.